Hello. I used to believe love was noisy. I thought it came with big laughs, loud arguments, doors closing, then opening again. I thought love made itself known. I never imagined it could be so quiet and still tear me apart. It was a Friday evening, one of those strange hours where the sun has not fully given up, but the hallway lights are already on. I wrapped my arms around my wife, Amanda, expecting nothing more than an ordinary hug. Just a normal moment between two people who share a life. Something familiar, something safe. That is when I heard it. She said it so softly I almost missed it, like her body tried to stop the words from escaping. Please, do not. 2 words. That was all. My muscles locked up instantly. Her body was already tense, barely touching mine. When I leaned back to look at her face, she turned away fast and slipped into the bedroom, disappearing like a shadow pulling itself out of sight. The door closed. No pause. No explanation. I did not follow her. I stayed right there in the hallway, my arms still raised, hands floating in the air where she had been only a second before. I could hear fabric moving behind the door. Drawers maybe. Clothes. I am not sure. My throat tightened as my mind started replaying the moment over and over, like a broken recording. I wanted a different version. One where she did not flinch. One where she laughed it off. One where I imagined it. But I did not imagine it. You do not misunderstand a plea like that. That was not confusion. That was not surprise. That was rejection mixed with exhaustion. Something worn down and practiced. I slowly lowered my arms and stepped back. My eyes landed on the framed photo hanging near the coat closet. It showed me, Amanda, in a bright afternoon from 2 years earlier. She was smiling, sunglasses resting on top of her head. I looked tired but content. Her arm was around my waist, fingers gripping my shirt like she was afraid I might drift away. I remember thinking when that picture was taken that I was lucky. Not lucky like life handed me everything, but lucky like a man who found a dry place just before the rain came down hard. That picture was not telling the truth. Or maybe we were not honest with ourselves. I stood in that hallway far longer than I should have. I listened. I waited. I hoped the bedroom door would open and she would say it was nothing. That she hurt herself. That she had a bad day. That she needed space. Nothing came. I did not knock. I did not push. Instead, I walked into the kitchen and leaned against the counter. A chipped mug sat there, half full of her tea. The tea bag string hung over the side like a warning I ignored. What kind of wife tells her husband not to touch her? I wanted to feel angry. I probably should have. Instead, I felt empty. The kind of empty you feel when you open the refrigerator expecting dinner and find nothing inside. Our life together was not exciting. We were not the couple people whispered about at parties. But I thought we were solid. I worked as a software project manager in downtown Seattle. My days were predictable. Deadlines, meetings, quiet train rides home. Amanda ran a small design studio from the house, creating branding for environmentally focused businesses. We had routines. Laundry every Sunday. Groceries every Thursday. We shared a calendar that tracked everything. It almost ran our marriage for us. Maybe that was part of it. Maybe life got too neat, too planned. Or maybe she just grew tired of me. What still haunts me is this. When she turned away from me, she never once looked back. Not even for a second. There was no hesitation. No guilt in her movement. It felt rehearsed. That scared me more than anything. Because if that reaction came from instinct, then she had been feeling this way for a long time. And if she had been hiding that, what else was buried underneath? I stood there listening to my own heartbeat, louder than my thoughts. I did not know it then, but that was the last time I reached for her without fear. After that, I would be reaching for answers. Later, we were in the car. The drive home was quiet, but not the peaceful kind. It was the kind of silence that presses into your head and makes every sound inside your body feel too loud. I stared straight ahead, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me together. Amanda looked out the window, calm and distant, like we just left a relaxing afternoon instead of stepping over something dangerous. I finally spoke. That kiss, I said carefully. That was not a joke. She did not turn toward me. She blinked slowly, her face reflected in the glass. What are you talking about? She asked. You know exactly what I am talking about, I said. My jaw was tight. You did not have to choose Ryan. And you did not have to kiss him like that. She turned then, slow and uninterested, like the conversation bored her. It was a dare, Daniel, she said with a shrug. You are making this into something it is not. Something it is not. My stomach twisted as the words hit me. And that was the moment I realized how far apart we already were. She brushed it off like it meant nothing, twisting the situation until I felt like I was the problem. It was casual, almost careless, the way she did it. Like the image burned into my head of her mouth pressed against Ryan, her fingers tightening behind his neck, was something I made up. Like it was just innocent fun, and I was being dramatic for no reason. I saw the way you looked at him, I said under my breath. Amanda scoffed and crossed her legs in the passenger seat. Come on. It lasted what, 10 seconds? 11, I said quietly. I had not planned to count, but I did. There was a pause. Then she laughed. It was dry and dismissive. Seriously, Daniel? You are timing me now? I pulled into the parking spot outside our apartment building. I did not answer. I just stared straight ahead. My hands hurt from gripping the steering wheel so hard. She turned fully toward me, her voice sharper now. You are honestly jealous over a dare? Ryan did not even care. It is not like I slept with him. And there it was. That sentence people use when they know they crossed a line they do not want to name. Not physical, but emotional. Something quieter. Something deeper. You are not sorry, I said, mostly to myself. You are not even pretending to be. She rolled her eyes. I am not apologizing for playing a dumb party game. You are the one making this strange. I am making this strange, I repeated, staring at her like she was someone I had just met. Yes, she said, grabbing her purse. Get over it, Daniel. Then she stepped out of the car. Her heels hit the pavement, sharp and final, and the night swallowed her indifference whole. I stayed in the car another 10 minutes. I stared at the dashboard, my heart racing like I had just been in a wreck. But it was not a crash that hurt. It was the slow understanding settling in. She did not care. Not about the kiss. Not about me. And somehow that hurt more than if she had admitted to something worse. When I finally went inside, the apartment felt colder. She was already in bed, scrolling through her phone like the night had gone exactly as planned. I did not say a word. I went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked the same, but something inside me had shifted. That night, I lay next to her in the dark and did not sleep. My thoughts kept spinning, circling one clear conclusion. If she was going to treat this like a game, then I had to stop being the one losing. She wanted indifference. Fine. I would give her indifference. Calm, casual, controlled. But inside, I was already setting something else in motion. Not revenge. Not yet. Something colder. Something deliberate. Because if this was a dare, then eventually it would be my turn. And when it was, she would feel it. It started with a smile. Not the forced kind you use to keep the peace. A real one. And it was not for Amanda. It was for Brooke. We were at our friend Kevin's place for a small game night. The kind where couples drink too much wine and pretend they are still young. Amanda floated around the living room like she owned the air, laughing loud, brushing Ryan's arm when she spoke to him, acting like nothing had ever happened. I was not watching her. I was watching Brooke. She had always been Amanda's closest friend. The kind of woman who remembered birthdays without reminders and actually listened when you answered her questions. She was not loud or flashy. She just had this steady presence. When she walked into a room, things felt more balanced. Brooke was standing by the kitchen counter, holding a short glass with something amber inside when I joined her. Still a whiskey person? I asked, reaching for a glass myself. She looked over, surprised, then smiled. You remembered. Hard to forget, I said, softening my voice just a little. You always made it look more refined than the rest of us. She laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one that slipped out before she could stop it. She tilted her head and studied me in a way I was not used to. Are you okay? She asked. Not dramatic. Just honest. I am better now, I said. It was subtle, but the look in her eyes told me she noticed the shift. We stood there talking for 20 minutes. We did not touch. We did not cross any obvious lines. But something moved between us anyway. Every time I made her smile, I noticed Amanda glance over. Every time Brooke leaned closer to hear me over the noise, I felt Amanda's energy change. Confident turned alert. And I did nothing to stop it. Brooke told me about a job offer she had received. A digital branding role at a startup downtown. I asked questions. Real ones. Not the empty nods people give when they are pretending to listen. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something shift back in my direction. I asked her what pulled her toward the job. What made her nervous about the change? What she hoped it might turn into down the road. She answered honestly. No filters. No pretending. Then she paused and said, almost quietly, when was the last time I had a conversation like this in my own living room? That landed heavier than she probably meant it to. Amanda eventually wandered over. She slipped her arm through mine, the grip a little too tight, the smile on her face polished to a shine that did not quite reach her eyes. "You two look comfortable," she said lightly, her stare fixed on Brooke. Brooke smiled back, calm and unbothered. "Daniel was just telling me how much he enjoys digital art. I had no idea he had that side to him." I shrugged like it was nothing. "You spend enough time around designers, some of it rubs off." Amanda laughed, but it came out sharp around the edges. "Well, maybe you can design my next logo." I looked at her, steady and unreadable. "I think you already have plenty of people lining up for that job." She blinked, just for a second, long enough for the comment to sink in. Brooke excused herself not long after, but before she walked away, she gave me a look. I could not quite place it. Curious, thoughtful, maybe intrigued. When we got home, Amanda was quiet, unusually quiet. She did not mention Brooke, did not ask about the conversation, but I saw her watching me through the bathroom mirror while I brushed my teeth. Her eyes scanned my face like she was trying to find something she had misplaced. And standing there in that silence, something clicked. I did not talk to Brooke because I wanted her. I did it because, for the first time in weeks, I saw Amanda unsettled. And that meant she could still feel something. It was just a spark. Small, easy to miss. But sparks start fires. And I had no interest in putting this one out. The next party was not supposed to be dramatic. Just a backyard gathering. String lights overhead. Coolers slowly turning into puddles. A speaker playing old songs from the early 2000s. Comfortable. Predictable. Still, I walked in knowing exactly what I was about to do. Amanda was already there. She wore that red dress she saves for nights when she wants attention. Simple. Tight. Impossible not to notice. She glanced at me, lifted her drink slightly, then turned back to Ryan with that same smirk she had worn weeks earlier. This time, I was not leaving embarrassed. Brooke showed up late. Her hair was still damp, cheeks flushed from the heat. She found me near the fire pit, smiling in that easy way that made everything around her feel lighter. "Hey," she said, brushing ash off the bench before sitting beside me. "I almost did not make it." "I am glad you did," I said without thinking. We talked like no one else existed. Work, books, a podcast she had been listening to nonstop. It was not romantic. Not yet. But it was intimate in a quiet, electric way. Then someone suggested the game. Truth or dare. Of course they did. The circle formed fast. I ended up sitting directly across from Amanda. She sat back in her chair like she was running the room. Brooke sat beside me, knees pulled close, her drink resting between them. The game started harmless. Eat a spoonful of mustard. Send an awkward message. Wear socks on your hands for 5 minutes. Then it was Amanda's turn. She did not hesitate. "Daniel," she said smoothly. "Truth or dare?" The group leaned in. I smiled, slow and deliberate. "Dare." She leaned forward, eyes shining. "Kiss someone." "Not me." I caught the smallest hitch in her voice. Most people would have missed it. I turned toward Brooke. I did not ask. I did not pause. I leaned in and kissed her. Not playful. Not quick. A real kiss. The kind that changes the air in the room. To my surprise, and maybe hers, Brooke kissed me back. Not stiff. Not shocked. Warm. Present. Everything stopped. Even the music cut out halfway through a song. When we pulled apart, Brooke held my gaze a second longer than needed. Then she whispered, so quietly only I could hear, "We should do that again sometime." I leaned back, my lips still buzzing, and finally looked at Amanda. Her smile had fractured. She covered it fast, but not before I saw her jaw tighten. Her fingers digging into her cup. A laugh bursting out a moment later that was too loud and aimed at nothing. The damage was already done. I did not look her way again for the rest of the game. I rested my arm along the back of Brooke's chair. I kept my tone light. My eyes everywhere, but Amanda. Later, as people started leaving, Amanda cornered me near the kitchen sink while I refilled my water bottle. "That was cute," she said, swirling ice in her glass. "What was that little show about? You really wanted to get a reaction from me." I met her eyes, calm and steady. "I was just playing the game. Same as you." She stepped closer. "You do not even like her like that." I smiled slightly. "Are you sure?" For just a second, I saw it. The fear behind her confidence. The doubt behind her fire. And I knew I had finally reached her. Then I walked away and left her standing there, drink in hand, staring after me with eyes that no longer held control. If she wanted to play with fire, I was finally learning how to stand in the heat. You can only pull at a loose thread for so long before the whole thing comes apart. That night, it finally did. The party rolled on. Another backyard. Another round of drinks. Another stretch of forced small talk. But the air felt tighter this time. Charged. You could feel it in the way people glanced over, in the pauses that followed whenever I passed by with Brooke at my side. Amanda was quieter than usual. That alone should have told me something. She stayed close to Ryan most of the evening. Her laughter came out louder than necessary. Her hand found his arm too often to be friendly. But nobody was really paying attention to him. They were watching her watching me. Brooke and I kept things easy. Nothing obvious. Nothing you could point to and accuse. A shared laugh. A light nudge. Standing just close enough to be noticed, but far enough to look innocent. That was all it took. It did not take long before Amanda cracked. We were standing near the fire pit again. A group of us roasting marshmallows, trading dumb stories. Brooke was beside me, relaxed and warm. Someone threw out another silly dare, and the group laughed. Then Amanda's voice cut through the night. Why do you two not just get a room already? It was loud, sharp, aimed straight at us. The laughter stopped. I turned toward her slowly. Excuse me. She stepped forward, her eyes bright with something restless and uncontained. You heard me, she snapped. Is this your idea of payback? Flirting with my best friend like some teenager trying to make a point? Brooke stiffened next to me. I stayed calm. You dare me to kiss someone, I said evenly. I did. You kissed her like you meant it, Amanda shouted. Her voice cracked. You embarrassed me. Every conversation around us died. Someone turned off the music. Even the fire seemed quieter. I took a slow breath. Did you not do the same thing? I asked. At the cabin. With Ryan. That was different, she hissed. Different how? I asked. Different feelings? Or different control? Her mouth opened, then shut. Her chest rose and fell fast. Then she snapped. You are pathetic, she said. You think kissing Brooke makes you a man? You think that fixes the fact that you have been sleepwalking through this marriage for years? The words landed, but not the way she wanted. Because for the first time in a long time, I did not feel small. I felt clear. I met her stare without backing down. Maybe I was sleepwalking, I said. But at least I was not pretending to be happy while kissing someone else behind my wife's back. She flinched. The silence afterward was thick and heavy. Then, without another word, Amanda turned and stormed into the house. The screen door slammed behind her, sharp and final. Nobody spoke. They did not need to. Everyone there had just watched the moment she lost control. And I did not feel guilty. Not even a little. The silence did not last long. People returned to their drinks, talking louder than before, like noise could erase what they had just seen. I stayed seated, still, like I was waiting. Because I was. You can tell when something is unfinished. I waited about an hour. Long enough that no one could say I chased after her. I needed that space. I needed to look calm. Steady. Then I stood up, stretched, and walked away from the main house. Outside, everything was quiet. The moon hung over the lake, pale and distant. I passed the fire pit, still glowing faintly, and headed toward one of the guest rooms off to the side. I do not know why I went there. Call it instinct. Call it pain disguised as curiosity. The door was closed, but not locked. I turned the knob slowly. The moment it opened, I knew. I heard Ryan's laugh. Low. Smug. Completely wrong for that place. Then I saw them. Amanda was tangled in the sheets, her back bare, hair a mess. She looked up mid-laugh and froze when she saw me. Her face drained of color. Ryan just grinned, propped up like this was nothing more than a joke. Hey man, he said casually. Did not expect company. Time stopped. My hands curled into fists before I could stop myself. I did not plan it. I did not think. I hit him. Once. Then again. He went down, clutching his face, laughing even as he groaned. The room filled with noise. His voice. Amanda screaming my name. The sharp sound of impact. Daniel, stop, she shouted, grabbing at my arm. I pulled back, breathing hard, staring at the man I once trusted. Blood ran from his nose. He was still smiling like this was funny. Amanda wrapped a sheet around herself, her face caught between panic and disbelief. I stood there shaking, not from anger, but from clarity. Because in that moment, there was no more doubt. No more guessing. No more pretending. It meant nothing, she said, her voice breaking apart. Daniel, I swear. I did not want to hear it. Not the excuses. Not the promises that came too late. Not the regret that only showed up after everything was already ruined. I turned around and walked out without saying a word. The screen door slammed behind me, echoing through the quiet night like a judge's final strike. Outside, the air felt cooler, cleaner, and standing there, I realized something surprised me. I was not sad. I was not angry. I was finished. The walk back from the guest cabin was short, but every step felt like distance. Distance between who I had been and the man I was becoming. I did not yell. I did not slam anything. That kind of anger belongs to people still hoping something can be saved. I was not one of them anymore. By the time I reached the main lodge, most of the party had faded. Some people had gone to bed. Others stood in quiet groups, speaking in low voices. A few looked up when I came in, caught something on my face, and quickly looked away. No one asked where I had been. Maybe they already knew. Maybe they did not want to. I went straight to our room and packed my things. Just the basics. I moved slowly, carefully, folding each piece of clothing like it mattered. Control is a strange thing. Grief makes you cling to it. I could not stop Amanda from crossing that line. I could not stop Ryan from throwing away years of friendship for a moment. But I could decide how I responded. And I chose silence. She did not come after me right away. It was not until I stepped into the hallway, bag over my shoulder, that I heard her voice behind me. Small. Panicked. Daniel, wait. I turned. She stood there wrapped in the same sheet, like fabric could erase what she had done. Her eyes were wide. Her face flushed. Her hair hung loose around her shoulders. It meant nothing, she said again, like saying it enough times might make it real. It just happened. I was drunk. I was angry. I did not think. That is the problem, I said quietly. You did not think because you never believed there would be consequences. She stepped closer. Please. You cannot just walk away from us. From everything. Us, I said, tilting my head. You mean me and the woman who kissed my friend in front of everyone? Or me and the woman I found in his bed? She flinched like the words hit her. You broke something, I said. And the worst part is, you knew exactly what you were doing. You just did not expect me to stop caring. Her mouth trembled. She searched for something to say. Nothing came. I waited for anger to rise again. It did not. Only that same calm clarity. I am going home, I said. Do not follow me. I turned and walked away. The lodge door creaked, then shut behind me with a heavy final sound. Outside, the night air hit me hard. Cool. Sharp. Honest. I tossed my bag into the back of my car, sat in the driver's seat, and stared at my reflection in the mirror for a long moment. I did not recognize that man, but I trusted him. He was calm. He was finished playing games, and he was ready to begin again. I got back to the apartment just before sunrise. The city was quiet in that rare early hour when even the streets seemed to breathe softly. I dropped my bag by the door and stood in the living room, letting the silence settle around me like armor. Everything looked the same. A blanket draped over the couch, a mug on the coffee table, a half-dead plant in the window we always forgot to water. It should have felt familiar. Instead, it felt like evidence. I did not go to bed. I did not change. I sat on the couch, elbows on my knees, staring into nothing. When the sun finally crept through the blinds, I stood up and pulled the small safe from the hallway closet. Inside were notebooks, passwords, tax documents, all the quiet pieces of a shared life. At the bottom were papers I had printed months earlier and never filled out. Divorce forms. I remembered thinking it was extreme to have them ready back when the tension was only a low hum in the background. Now, it felt like the smartest thing I had done. I laid them out on the kitchen table and sat down. Name, date, reason, irreconcilable differences. The pen moved smoothly. My hand did not shake. Halfway through the first page, I heard a knock. 3 soft taps. Careful. Afraid. I knew who it was before I opened the door. Amanda stood there in yesterday's clothes. Her hair was pulled back messily. Mascara smudged under tired eyes. She looked like she had not slept. The moment she saw me, her face collapsed. Daniel, please. I did not say anything. I just stepped aside. She stepped inside slowly, like someone walking into a place they once believed in but no longer recognized. I should not have done it, she began, then her voice broke. She covered her mouth as tears spilled down her face. I do not even know what I was thinking, she said through sobs. It was stupid. It was selfish. I did not want to lose you. I swear. I just wanted to feel something. I turned back to the kitchen table, picked up the pen, and kept writing. She noticed the papers then. Froze in place. Her hand flew to her mouth. Daniel, she whispered. What is this? I did not answer. She stepped closer, reaching for the documents. I slid them slightly toward myself, steady and deliberate. Please do not do this, she said, her voice shaking. We can fix this. We have been through worse. I looked up and met her eyes for the first time since she came in. No, I said quietly. We have not. She sank into the chair across from me like my words had taken the strength out of her. I made a mistake, she said softly. No, I replied, calm and even. You made a choice. She stared down at the table, tears dripping onto the wood. You do not have to forgive me, she whispered. Just do not stop loving me. I looked at her for a long moment. My chest felt heavy, but it was not pain anymore. I am done, I said gently. You played with fire. She swallowed, unable to respond. I slid the papers into a folder and stood up. I stopped burning for you. Then I walked away. No yelling, no pleading, just my footsteps down the hallway and the quiet weight of a love that had finally burned itself out. That evening, around 7, my phone buzzed. I stared at the screen longer than I meant to. Brooke, hey, just checking on you. If you want to talk or just get out of your head for a bit, I am around. There was no pressure in her message, no expectation, just something steady and human that hit harder than anything else had. I looked out the window. The sun had dipped low, the city caught between gold and shadow. I thought about staying in, about letting the silence win again, but I did not want to sit alone with it. I could use a conversation, I typed back. That diner on 6th Street still open? Yeah, she replied. Give me 20 minutes. The diner was mostly empty when I arrived. Same cracked booths, same hum of old lights. The smell of burnt toast and tired coffee filled the air. Brooke sat in a corner booth, holding a cup of tea. She looked up when I approached. For a second, neither of us spoke. She stood. We did not hug, but something passed between us in that pause. An understanding. Hey, she said. Hey. We sat. It was not awkward, just careful, like we both knew the ground was still soft beneath us. At first, we talked about nothing. Traffic, work, the weather turning colder than expected. Then the conversation shifted. I did not know, she said quietly, looking down at her cup. I knew something was off with you, but I did not realize how bad it was. I nodded. Neither did I. Not until everything stopped making noise. The silence between us was not heavy. It felt honest. She looked up at me. That night, the kiss. I did not plan it, but I wanted it. I will not lie. Her honesty was not bold. It was brave. I let out a breath I had been holding. It was not a move. I was not using you. She nodded. I figured. But if it was about Amanda, I needed to know. It started that way, I admitted. But now I think it is about doing something that actually feels real. She smiled faintly. That is the most honest thing I have heard in weeks. The waitress refilled our drinks. Neither of us touched the menu. You do not owe me anything, Brooke said gently. I am not here to be your rebound. I know, I said. But if someday you need a friend, or something more, I am here. The look she gave me was not flirtation. It was understanding. We paid the check. She walked me to my car. We did not kiss. Before she turned to leave, she paused. Take your time, she said. Just do not stay alone in that silence too long. You deserve more than surviving. I nodded and watched her walk away. For the first time in a long time, I did not feel alone. Healing does not announce itself. There is no moment where everything suddenly feels fixed. It starts quietly. One morning, you wake up and realize the pain did not get there before you. And that is how you know you are moving forward. After the diner, Brooke and I did not rush into anything. There were no heavy confessions and no dramatic promises. We checked in with each other in small ways. A message here, a coffee there. It was steady and uncomplicated, and it turned out to be exactly what I needed. About 2 weeks later, I found myself at her apartment for the first time. It smelled like cinnamon and clean laundry. The place felt lived in, not staged. Books stacked everywhere. A cat perched on the armrest, watching me like I had something to prove. I did not even know she had a cat. We sat on the couch, close, but not close enough to feel dangerous. A movie played in the background, one of those films neither person really watches. I have not had someone just sit with me in a long time, she said quietly. I turned toward her. You seem like the kind of person people do not walk away from. They do, she said with a soft smile. I just learned not to hold them too tightly. That stayed with me. Later, we shared a bottle of red wine. Her knee brushed against mine. I did not move. Neither did she. There was no tension, no performance, just presence. When she rested her head on my shoulder, I closed my eyes. Not because I was tired, because it felt like peace. Not excitement, not escape, just calm. I stayed until almost midnight. At the door, she looked up at me like she was unsure what came next. So I made it simple. Not yet, I said gently. But soon. She nodded. No disappointment. No pressure. just understanding. When I got back to my place, the air felt lighter. Even the shadows on the walls seemed softer. I passed the kitchen table where the divorce papers still sat inside their folder, signed and untouched since that morning. I would talk to a lawyer soon, tomorrow or the day after. There was no rush anymore. I was not angry now. I was free. Amanda had not reached out again. No calls. No messages. Maybe she was giving me space. Maybe she finally understood the weight of what she had done. Either way, her silence no longer felt like punishment. It felt like distance. And distance felt good. The next morning, I brewed coffee and sat by the window with sunlight on my face. The cup was warm in my hands. Calm settled over me in a way I had not felt in years. My phone buzzed once. "Brooke, hope you woke up to something good." I smiled before I even realized I was doing it. I did, I typed back. It was a Saturday when Amanda showed up again. I had just returned from a walk. One of those quiet mornings when the city feels gentler than usual. Brooke and I had plans later. Lunch. Maybe a bookstore. Nothing dramatic. Just something ordinary and steady. I unlocked my door and stepped inside. Amanda was sitting on the edge of the couch. She did not belong there anymore, and we both knew it. She stood when she saw me. Her eyes were glassy. I could tell she had been rehearsing this moment. "Hi," she said, like the word still had power. It did not. I set my keys on the table and hung my jacket. I did not ask how she got in. She still had a spare, apparently. "I will not stay long," she said quickly. "I just needed to say this to your face." I leaned against the kitchen counter and waited. She took a shaky breath. I was reckless. And the second it happened, what I did with Ryan, I knew it was something I could never undo. I stayed silent. "I thought I could handle being wild for one night," she continued, twisting her hands together. "Instead, I lit something I could not control. I lost the one person who always stood by me." Her voice cracked. "I have been in therapy," she added, like she needed me to know, trying to understand why I ruined good things. I raised an eyebrow slightly, and she swallowed. "I never felt in control," she said. "And you were always so steady. I think I wanted to shake that, to see if I could break it. And when I did, when I saw you pull away, I realized what I destroyed." I looked at her for a long moment. At the woman I once believed I would grow old with. She looked the same. I did not feel the same. "You want forgiveness," I said. "Yes," she whispered. "And what do you think that gives you?" I asked. "Do you think it brings us back?" "No," she said after a pause. "But maybe it lets you move on. And maybe it lets me stop hating myself." I nodded and stepped closer. Not close. Just enough. "I do not hate you," I said. "But I do not believe you anymore." Tears filled her eyes. "You did not lose me because of one mistake," I continued. "You lost me because of what you did afterward. Because you looked me in the eye and expected nothing to change." She covered her mouth. Her shoulders shook. "I am not angry anymore," I said gently. "But I am not coming back. What I had with you is not something I want again. It is something I survived." She nodded, crying openly now. "I am sorry," she said. "I know." I opened the door. She stood there for a moment like she wanted to say more. Then she walked out. I did not watch her go. Later that afternoon, I met Brooke for lunch. Sunlight caught her smile when she saw me. "Everything okay?" she asked, reading my face easily. I slid into the seat across from her and nodded. "Yeah," I said. "It finally is." We clinked our glasses. Outside the window, the world kept moving. And for the first time in a long time, so did I. Bye.